welcome to our very first video on this channel. So basically today we're going to have an extra long video, although I suppose since it's the first one this might be standard length, I don't know. But so basically today we're doing an introduction to flag design and some of the basic properties of flag design outlined in the pamphlet Good Flag, Bad Flag. So basically Good Flag, Bad Flag was an educational tool put out quite a while ago that basically highlights 5 basic rules that in general flags should stick to if they want it to be good. Now these rules aren't exactly like, oh, if you break this rule your flag's going to be awful automatically. Some of them are more loose than others, but in general they're very good rules. So the first one up is simplicity, and as the name implies, this is pretty simple. So the simpler a flag is, usually the better it is, though there is a limit. If you have just one color, like the old flag of Libya, it's not a very good flag. But in general, simplicity makes a flag better, more recognizable, easier to draw, definitely more recognizable at a distance. So right here is the flag of Ireland, as you probably know. And it's got probably the most simple flag design, triband. So there are vertical and horizontal tribands, and most are vertical, like Ireland, France, Belgium, and the like. Not all, but this is one of the most simple designs, pretty much, other than one or two tone flags. The good thing about simplicity, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is that the point of a flag is to be recognizable at a distance. So if you were out in the wild and you stumbled across the United Nations headquarters, you'd be able to recognize this flag pretty easily. So good points to Ireland for simplicity. Now, this is also a very recognizable flag. This is Australia's flag, though you might get it confused with New Zealand. We'll get to that later. But this flag does not earn a lot of points for simplicity. So as well as being able to recognize it at a distance, a general rule of thumb is that a child should be able to draw it, and you should be able to at least understand what flag they're trying to draw. So the problem here is that this is not simplistic at all. First off, with the Union Jack in the left corner, the Union Jack, I don't dislike it, but it does have some problems with simplicity. Mainly the diagonal crosses don't actually intersect the corners of the flag at the same place, so that makes it more difficult. But mainly against the Australian flag is the stars. So there are 6 stars, and there are 3 different sizes. There's a large one on the left, 4 medium-sized ones on the right, and a relatively small one on the right as well. And not only do you have to remember that the stars are all different sizes, there are also different kinds of stars. 5 of them, the medium and big ones, are 7-pointed stars, but the smaller one is only a 5-pointed star. Now, I'm sure this has a lot of meaning, but it does make it a lot more complicated, and it would be hard to draw in a pinch, and you might not be able to recognize it as easily. So next up we have a symbolism, and this is mainly what a flag is designed to do. So pretty much every national flag has a lot of symbolism. You're not just going to throw up some random shape on your flag, but the colors also have a lot of symbolism. But in general, some flags do have more obvious symbolism and some have less obvious symbolism. And although you don't want it to be literally spelling it out on your flag, your symbolism, it should be at least recognizable in general when it's symbolizing. So this is the flag of Israel, as you probably can instantly recognize from its symbolism. It has 2 horizontal blue stripes on a white field, as well as a blue Star of David in the middle. If you are over the age of 10, you instantly know at least what this flag is representing in general. The Star of David represents Judaism and the Jewish people, and Israel was created after World War II as a homeland for the Jewish people. This flag has excellent symbolism for what it is supposed to symbolize, and it's very easily recognizable what it's supposed to symbolize. Now next up, this is the flag of Poland, although no one would blame you if you instantly thought Austria, Indonesia, or Monaco, because they're all way too similar. We'll get to that later. But another problem with this, besides it not being distinguishable from some other flags, is that it has no recognizable symbolism. If you're not from Poland or you haven't looked up what this flag means, this would mean nothing to you. Just a white stripe over a red stripe. That has no meaning to me or someone not from Poland. I'm sure it does have some meaning, just it's not clear whatsoever. And if I were the Polish flag designer or what have you, I'd probably put some more on there to have some more symbolism for Poland. Next up is colors. This one's again pretty self-explanatory, although there are some properties of a flag that, when it comes to colors, are better than others. So, for example, we have this is my favorite flag when it comes to colors, or favorite national flag, and this is the flag of Jamaica. Jamaica is one of the very few countries whose flag does not have red, white, or blue, and they really use these colors very well. They use black, yellow, kind of goldish color, and green. These colors really balance well off of each other. They have the contrast between the light and the dark, the yellow on the black. And the colors are also, as I mentioned, very unique. If you see these colors, you're probably going to think of Jamaica or at least some other Caribbean nation. So Jamaica gets a lot of points. Their flag's really good in other areas such as simplicity too, but colors is definitely their strongest and one of the strongest in the world when it comes to flag design. Next up is this is the flag of Dominica. I'm using this kind of as the bad example for colors because while they do get some things right, they get some things wrong. So back to Jamaica, as I mentioned, the black, gold, and green. Dominica also uses the black, gold, and green, as well as 3 additional colors from white, red, and purple. So the black, gold, and green are definitely kind of the most prominent on the flag. It has a green field as well as the blue and gold, sorry, not blue, black and gold stripes. And this is supposed to represent pan-Caribbean, not nationalism, but unity. A lot of flags do this, like the Pan-Arab colors, the Pan-African colors, the Pan-Latin American colors. So that is good. That they use those colors well. Well, it's kind of hard to see. The colors on this flag, the Jamaica flag, the green, is actually quite a bit lighter than the one on the Jamaica flag. And I guess it's really a personal opinion, but I don't find it nearly as appealing. It's a little too light. And another problem too they have is that they have way too many colors. They have 6 colors on this flag, and that is the most of any national flag. South Africa also has 6 colors. I don't have an example here, but South Africa's flag uses it really well because it's the focus of the flag, but here it's more of a distraction. The white and purple are not used very much, especially the purple. And the red is okay, I suppose, but the white and purple either need to be expanded on or shrunken to not being on the flag. What's kind of disappointing about the Dominica flag is that it's one of the very few flags that has purple on it. Not very many have that. It's a fairly unique national flag color. But the problem is they kind of only have it on that parrot right in the middle. And if they had expanded on it, it'd be a lot more unique and probably a lot better. This one is probably the most important, at least to me, and it's definitely the one that's the most hard, fast rule. So basically, lettering and seals do not have any. It makes for a bad flag. The reason is, as I mentioned earlier, a flag should be recognizable at a distance. So if you're standing 300 feet away from a flag and it's got some tiny lettering on it like "Welcome to the City of Anaheim," you can't read that. You're not going to be able to know what the flag is, and that's just a big problem. Same thing with seals, really. They're way too intricate detail, and you can't really tell what they represent unless you're just looking right at it up close. So this one, Canada's flag is also, again, one of my favorite national flags, along with Jamaica's. And this is kind of an example of a good way to use a shape. Now, this isn't a seal. A seal has a lot of fancy stuff, like usually the name of the country, maybe the year of founding, more than just a simple shape. Simple shapes are good because they're very unique. There's no other flag that has a maple leaf on it, and they're easily remakeable. You can design this fairly quickly, fairly easily, and instantly recognizable. Canada's flag also has a lot of symbolism with the maple leaf. I mean, clearly maple leaves are associated with Canada, as well as the Canadian maple leaf on the flag has 13 points, which represent the 10 provinces and 3 territories of Canada. So a lot of good points to Canada and a good use of a shape, but not a seal. Now next up is we go down south of Canada for Mexico, and this is a bad example of a seal. Although the colors are pretty good, although a little reminiscent of Italy, Mexico's flag is fairly recognizable, but the problem is the seal is way too intricate. So for example, the eagle and the rattlesnake. The eagle has all these feathers. It's got the eyes and the talons. The rattlesnake has all the scales and the rattles and the fangs and the different greens, tans, and browns on it. It's just way too detailed. No way you could accurately draw this in less than probably 30 minutes. And if you're looking at a distance, you could probably say, oh yeah, that's Mexico, because you're just acclimated to know in general what it looks like, but you can't actually see what's going on with it specifically. They've and it's standing on a cactus and it's got the plants underneath. It's just way too complicated. If they were to somehow boil this down to maybe just the outline of the eagle, snake, and cactus, it would be much better, much easier to replicate, much easier to recognize. It would be much simpler with the colors. It would look a lot better. Last up, we have distinctiveness and relatedness. So basically, this one isn't like the other ones where it's just more seals is always bad, more lettering is always bad, or more colors is generally bad and less is generally better. Distinctiveness is actually kind of a curve where the less distinctive it is, the worse. Although at the same time, you also want it to be a little less distinctive if you're trying to make it relate to other national flags or other flags that you want to associate with. So for a very distinctive flag at first, we have the Union Jack. Again, this is probably the most recognizable flag on the earth. It's used on many national flags. It's used on the Hawaiian state flag. Very recognizable, good use of colors. Although again, I think it's not quite simple enough. This flag is very distinctive, and it gets a lot of points for distinctiveness. For relatedness, for example, we have the Nordic nations. So left to right, we have Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. So these flags have an excellent balance between being distinctive enough to not be confused with one another and related enough that you can instantly tell that these countries are in some way, shape, or form associated with one another, mainly being they are Nordic nations in Northern Europe and the Atlantic. They use the Nordic cross, which is clearly related to being Nordic nations. So a lot of points for relatedness, and they do this very well. None of them even use the same colors. They all have at least one different color from each other, or one less color from each other. A lot of points there. And the cross in the middle is different for everyone. Denmark has a white cross, Finland has a blue cross, Iceland has a red cross. Uh, Norway has a blue cross on a white cross, which is very distinguished from the Finland cross, and Sweden has a gold cross. Now, the absolute worst example of relatedness is all these monstrosities of flags. So, as I mentioned with Poland's earlier, first of all, these flags on their own would be fairly bad because what are they supposed to represent? No one knows. And at the same time, even worse is that they're way too similar to each other. Monaco and Indonesia's flags are literally the exact same, except the colors are slightly different and the proportions, I believe, are longer for Indonesia's flag. But otherwise, they're literally the same. And Poland's is just upside down. Austria and Latvia's same problem too. I guess the dimensions are different, but that really does not make a huge difference. On this graphic, Peru's seal in the middle is missing. Well, first of all, you should know by now that seals are not good, and second of all, the colors are too similar to the other flags. So thanks for listening to this intro to flag design. Hopefully you learned something, and next video we will be talking about the flag of Afghanistan.